of the school year brought with it this year, coinciding right along with it, the release of a new state report card. I would say that overall that's a mixed bag for us on two fronts. It gives us many areas of which to celebrate and to congratulate our teachers and our students on work well done. It also gives us a couple of new lenses through which to look to say how can we get better, where can we improve, and what new approaches can we take to do that. This year's report card is based on 9 measures. That's different from last year. On this slide, what you can see, we are held accountable to 9 measures this year in the area of gap closing, which becomes known this year as AMO, Annual Measurable Objectives. I'll talk about those in a moment. Achievement has 2 factors in this component. It is the attainment of our academic indicators as well as our overall performance index. The growth area talks about value added, and we get 4 ratings on that area: an overall composite for our district, a rating for our gifted students, a rating for students with disabilities, and a rating that is tied to the lowest 20% of our students in their performance. And the final area this year, 2 components were the graduation rate, one for the 4-year cohort and the other for the 5-year cohort. The 2 areas on this slide you see, the prepared for success in the future and the literacy progress, which will be tied to grades K to 3, will not be phased in until the coming 2 or 3 years after this one. So our results this year in a nutshell, when we looked at our academic indicators, we attained a score, if you will, of 70.8%. That would constitute 17 of 24 indicators met. We were down 2 indicators this year. That would be 3rd grade math and 7th grade math. When you take that 70.8% on the rubric that the Ohio Department of Education now uses, that gives us a letter grade of C in that area. For our performance index, we had a performance index this year of 93.5, which is a reduction this year of 1.6 points overall. That gives us, in their equivalent scale, a 78, which gives us, again, a grade of C in that performance index area. Our performance index over the last 3 to 4 years has remained pretty constant. This is a small decrease over last year, but it's very much in line with a trajectory of good growth over the past 4 to 5 years. In value added in these areas, one of our strongest areas, something that our district does excel at and we do very well. Our overall composite grade was an A. The A on this year's scoring rubric, if you will, is that when you gain approximately 2 standard error points or standard deviation points above the norm, adding more than, significantly more than, a full year's growth or more to our students, then you receive that grade of A. In our gifted area, we ranked a grade of C this year, which means or indicates that in that specific subgroup, we were able to grow our students 1 full year. And so the grade of C perhaps would look a little odd to folks and think that it is less than adding the value, but those gifted students did grow a full year last year. In our students with disabilities category, we again got that top ranking of A. We this year were able to realize with much of the hard work in our special ed department that our students were able to add more than a full year's growth for students with disabilities and on IEPs. And in our overall lowest performing students, once again, the top rating of A in that area, signifying that more than a full year's growth or significantly more than a full year's growth was attained. In our graduation rate this year, we scored an 85.2. That is an increase of almost 2 points over last year. That is the percentage of our students who are able to, once they start 9th grade, to graduate on time at the end of 4 years. That rates in the rubric for the state as a C. The 5-year graduation cohort rate was 86.5 this year, which is also a C. We get both ratings now, not just one rating for graduation, but the 4 and the 5. And then the area where we know that we need to put a lot of our emphasis in the coming year is the AMO, the gap closure. We scored 30.1 points out of the total possible, which by the rubric for the Ohio Department of Education scores us at an F. A little information for you about annual measurable objectives. AMOs are now the measure of academic performance for our student groups. It is 10 student groups that we look at. That would be minority groups, students with disabilities, gifted students, etc. Each of these groups is now compared under AMO to an average performance collectively of all students throughout the state of Ohio. That differs from AYP, which up until this year has been our measure. AYP measures a student's growth against their own growth from year to year. So we were looking at how they made progress and were closing the gap overall. AMOs, as I just mentioned, are replacing AYP, and AMO will be the sole component for gap closure on the new report card. AMOs will review 10 student groups, and it is in reading, math, and the graduation rate, and assigns an overall grade for the efforts to close those achievement gaps across all groups. And our local educational associations are evaluated for the subgroup as long as there are at least 30 students in that subgroup in our district. What this really brings us to a close is, that mixed bag that I mentioned to you is, first of all, we have a lot to celebrate still. We have areas to grow for sure, but this new lens of the way we are gauged on our success gives us opportunities to reflect and to see what's working. A couple of things to highlight for you tonight are the buildings that are listed there. Buckeye Woods had met all of their indicators this year and achieved their highest performance index ever. In fact, it's a highest record of performance index for our district at coming in slightly over 104. That's an amazing accomplishment. Highland Park had their highest performance index ever at just shy of 100 and a top rating of A for AMO. Again, that they are closing their gaps compared to students around the state with that highest level possible. J.C. Summer reached all indicators on their academic side, had a performance index of just over 100, and received an overall A for their value added, the way that they grow their students from year to year. Richard Avenue had all indicators achieved and a B rating for AMO. Outside of a couple of A's, the B was the next highest rating, and a lot of our schools did not attain that level, so we're very proud of Richard Avenue for that. East Franklin has celebrated this year their third straight year for growing their performance index overall. They are up 13.7 points over the last 3 years, and that's reflective of a lot of hard work on the part of that staff and its leadership. North Franklin is our steady Eddie. They are, again, coming in this year with all indicators achieved. They have an A rating, or the highest rating, in both value-added and AMO for their students. Stiles comes in this year with something to celebrate after a lot of hard work there too. Their value-added rating has received the highest grade of A this year. And while they have not reached perhaps enough indicators to meet their standards for themselves or their expectations for themselves, it is a symbol that they are closing or beginning to close those gaps for their students and making more than a year's growth for their students. Grove City High School has achieved all indicators. They have their highest PI ever at 103.8. And another little fact that wasn't reported on the report card but we think is worth mentioning, on their ACT composite scores, they have had the highest ACT composite score in nearly 20 years at 22.8. And that is, by my calculation, a full point above the average around the state of Ohio. Central Crossing High School has also reached all indicators. Their performance index is up for the third straight year. Galloway Ridge has increased their value added to the highest rating of A, and Finland Middle School has their performance index up over 7 points over the last 3 years, and their value added rating is also at A. So the work of improvement is what we start on from day one and carry on throughout every year, and that's to ask the question, what's next? It's when we look at what's possible for us to do in order to add larger, more sustained growth to our record of success in Southwestern. Some of the things that we are working on, and this is just a few of them, this year we are using and implementing the Ohio Improvement Process in all of our buildings. The Ohio Improvement Process is a very coherent way for buildings to evaluate data, look at the areas for sharp focus, and then to work a 5-step process in continually reviewing their data, chronicling success, finding out where they need to change or alter their plans, or where their work is paying off well and they can continue with the work. One of the things we're doing in the curriculum department this year is we're doing focused work on 3 challenging student group areas of our subgroups, and we are going to be working, studying some districts around the state and around the central Ohio area who are having sustained growth in those areas, looking at the best practices and latest research, and we will be crafting a curriculum department continuous improvement plan, developing high-yield strategies that we can share with our building principals and teachers and support them in the long haul for their continued growth. We're adding literacy instruction support to our middle schools this year. This came about as part of the title formula, a little-known part of the No Child Left Behind law that said when a building exceeds 75% free and reduced lunch, then they should receive, regardless of their grade level, title services. In order to be commensurate with some of our other buildings, what we have done is we have added the training of a literacy coach to 2 of our buildings at the middle school level this year. I guess you could say as a pilot, and we're going to be looking at developing strong reading and literacy skills across all curriculum areas to strengthen our middle school growth. We're also going to continue to build coherence across grade levels and content areas between student services, and that will be through the curriculum department working together so that the special ed department is not just focusing on special ed, but all of the component areas of our curriculum team are working in concert together to build those continued growth strategies. And finally, we're adding new strategies to boost our 3rd grade reading achievement. That is something that we have been focused on for years. We intend to nail it this year. We are part of what we've done for the credentialing for the 3rd grade reading guarantee is we have prepared special workshops and professional development for all of our 3rd grade teachers, the credentialed teachers, and the very few that we have that did not meet the state's credentialing needs. That will be entitled Teaching the Struggling 3rd Grade Reader. We will also be adding additional instructional coaching time dedicated to both grade 2, preparing them to be stronger 3rd graders in the year to come, as well as supporting our grade 3 teachers. We look forward to a year that's going to be filled with hard work, like every year is. We are looking for those ways where we can close gaps even further and come back to you next year and have even more to celebrate. There are many challenges ahead of us, but as I've said to you many times before, I believe that our staff and our leadership and our district service center team are up to that challenge. Thank you. Thank you.